Theology in View. We're going to explore a profoundly important question raised in Scripture. It's found in 1 Corinthians 1:20. Here's what the verse says. Where is the one who is wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? In the form of a rhetorical question, Paul asserts that God has in fact made foolish the wisdom of the world. But how? How has God in fact made foolish the wisdom of the world? To get at this, we're going to take a circuitous route, one that will bring the answer into sharper relief, but only later. For now, our journey is going to begin with a popular movie and a perplexing question. Remember the movie The Matrix? The one where the central character Neo comes to realize that the world in which he lived, the one that he thought was ultimately real, was an illusion, a mere artifice, and in fact a computer simulation? His real body was cocooned in a capsule, being harvested for energy, but to his confined senses, everything seemed normal. Let's ask a simple yet profound question. Is it possible that we are living in something very much like the Matrix? Is it at all possible? Possible at all? Yes or no? And why or why not? Interestingly, tech guru Elon Musk once said, "There's a 1,000,000,000 to 1 chance we're living in base reality. In 40 years, we've gone from Pong to massive multiplayer online games with millions of simultaneous players, games with photorealistic graphics, and now we stand on the cusp of a new wave of virtual and augmented reality experiences." He argues, if you assume any rate of improvement at all, then games will become indistinguishable from reality. Even if that rate of advancement drops by 1,000 from what it is now, let's just imagine it's 10,000 years in the future, which is nothing on the evolutionary scale. Given our current trajectory, the odds that we are living in base reality, that is, real reality, is 1 in billions. We'd be living in a video game. Now let's imagine a similar scenario. Is it possible that we are a brain in a vat with diodes connected to us, sending impulses in order to make us think we are living the life we are currently living? Is it possible at all? Yes or no? And answer honestly. Consider yet another possibility. Allow me to introduce René Descartes' Cartesian demon. What if God is actually a malevolent demon telling us that he is good, only to reveal later his true character in order to heighten our despair and magnify his evil nature? That's terrible, but what if this is true? And is it possible that we're being tricked and that God is actually terribly wicked? Is it possible? And why or why not? Here's another. When it comes to the true nature of reality, is it possible that we are so limited in our intellectual capabilities that we cannot hope to grasp what is really at play? Might it be inscrutable, as if we were ants trying to understand algebra? And thus there is inscrutable truth A, or let's say inscrutable truth B, or C, and how many different inscrutable truths could there be? In terms of possibility, it would seem to be limitless. I mean, we can't imagine how many there would be. It's just this vast unknown. So here's the question. Is it possible that ultimate reality is incomprehensible to us and that we cannot hope to ever grasp its depths? And is the range of potential mysteries wildly unlimited? Is this at all possible? More examples could be multiplied, but we don't need to go any further. Enough is here for us to ask a fresh question. What is the relative likelihood of one of these possible scenarios being true? Or to ask it in a slightly different way, what is the likelihood of one of these options being more probable than one of the others? How in the world could we calculate such a probability? If I were to ask you what the chances of rolling a 3 on a 6-sided dice were, what would you say? 1 in 6? Yeah, it's 1 in 6. In the case of dice, we can work out the probability because we possess the necessary background information, namely, how many sides exist on a normal die. But when it comes to the question of whether or not we're living in the Matrix or exist in a bubbling vat of green goo, the requisite background information is in fact the very thing in question. If we are living in one of these realities, we're locked in that reality. Thus, the task of determining the relative likelihood of any of these being more or less probable than anything else is incalculable. In a very real sense, everything is equally likely and unlikely. It is a swirling cauldron of ignorance and possibility. What is this called? Very simply, agnosticism. All-consuming agnosticism. For myself, I like to call it the what-if problem. So listen, dear Christian. Does this mean that you don't really know whether or not Jesus or the gospel or the Bible or anything else connected with the Christian worldview is really true? I mean, if the other options are possible, then aren't all men bound to make leaps of faith in the dark? Arbitrary jumps towards whatever tickles a particular person's fancy? Now, granted, you might marshal evidence for your view, but at the end of the day, you really don't know for sure. An infinite number of other possibilities ever loom before us, eroding certainty and calling everything into question. If you said these other things were possible, then doesn't this follow? I can see that you are frowning. Or maybe it's a look of deep consideration. It's hard to tell. Either way, this is the terrible sting of agnosticism. It swallows everything. Here it should be observed that the kind of problem raised here has everything to do with the history of philosophy. All of the great minds have, in one way or another, tried to wrap their hands around true reality. Plato imagined a realm of true reality beyond the reach of that of our own, the forms. Immanuel Kant wrestled with similar problems. For him, we live in the world of the phenomena, where our senses perceive certain truths. But beyond this veil is the noumenon, the thing in itself realm, that is, the reality above and beyond us, true reality. For centuries, man has been bent on bridging this gap, yearning after a sure epistemological footing that can break into true reality. But if anything is apparent over the course of the long tale of philosophical discourse, it is that humans have continually failed, even down to the present. The project of modernity failed in its quest, and this gave way to postmodernity, where truth disintegrates into relativism and subjectivity. No real truth, but only that which we might simply claim as our own. You have your truth, I have mine. No point in arguing because truth is a mirage, or is a thing locked up in some faraway cell, sealed tight from the inside. It's a bleak picture for sure, and it is one that gnaws at peace. The key question that must now be asked is this: does possibility engulf everything? Does everything ultimately get sucked down into the black hole of agnosticism? Or is Christianity able to overcome it? How we answer this impacts everything, literally everything. And it has everything to do with 1 Corinthians 1:20, namely our initial question. How has God made foolish the wisdom of the world? But as you can see, this video is going a bit long now. And so I ask you to ponder these things, chew on them, consider how you would respond. Until next time, when we come back and wrestle with the answer.